right, guys. Now, don't be alarmed, but this is the first woman we've ever had in any Structure U events or any Zoom calls. So, Amy Hill's here. She is joining us. She's in the Dallas area, but she also leads a group called Building Powerful Marriages for Christian Men. And I had joined that group. That's been, I don't know, a month or two ago. And there's just so many good things going on in that group that I asked her if she would come and give us kind of a woman's perspective on how we as guys can quit being such a huge turds to our wives and our families, and become more leaders. So with that said, Amy, give us a little introduction about yourself.
Well, hi guys, and thank you very much, Mike, for having me here today. I'm delighted to be here. And I'm totally comfortable being in a group full of guys, so don't worry about that. We're all good. We're all cool. No worries there. So I'm a licensed professional counselor and a certified Christian life coach. And I started a group about 2 years ago on Facebook called Building Powerful Marriages for Christian Men. And we're just about 3,000 strong, and we have a fantastic group of guys. They are super, super interactive, fun, caring. They will hold you accountable when you need to. They'll knock you upside the head. A couple of guys have what we call 2x4s with their name on them. So we'll hold you accountable, but we are going to support you, encourage you, pray for you, mentor you. And it doesn't matter what stage of life of marriage that you're in. So we have guys who are young, all the way up to retired. We have guys who are dating and thinking seriously of marriage, all the way up to guys who've been married for 40 years. We have people in happy marriages, to people in struggling marriages, to people facing divorce or just going through divorce or recently divorced. So we have every spectrum there. And we are there to support everybody. It doesn't matter where you are in your journey of marriage. We are there to encourage you, support you, lift you up, pray for you, and help you get better at your job of being a leader in your family and home. And one of the things you'll hear in our group all the time is leaders go first. You're the leaders. Guys,
you see me with a pen. I'm writing notes because I like all this stuff. Yes.
And you're going to go first. Okay. So if you're struggling in your marriage right now, guys, it is like the two of you are on a tennis court and you're standing there looking at each other and you're going, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. Now it's your turn. I went first last time. I worked harder the last time. And you're just stuck. And you're not getting anywhere, and chances are neither of you are really super happy, okay? So somebody has to go first in order to get things going. In our group, I tell the guys, when I was a kid growing up, I have one sibling, an older sister. She's 4 years older than I am. And we had a tandem bike. Back in the day, those were popular. And we would get on that bike, and I kid you not, 20, 30 minutes, we would sit there and argue over who was going to pedal first, because it's hard. It's hard work. And so we would sit there and argue over who was going to pedal first and do that hard work to get us going. And we'd waste 20, 30 minutes doing that. And sometimes we just give up and go in the house and just not even ride the bike. But if we could get started pedaling, it was fun. And we really enjoyed doing that. So here's the thing, guys. You are the leaders. You are called to go first. And so we are going to encourage you to go first, get the tools, the tips, the techniques, the mentoring, whatever it is that you need to guide your marriages, guide your families. And I'll tell you what, guys, never in my life, and you can probably tell from the hair color, I'm a bit older than Mike.
Wow, look, I'm not far behind, though.
But I'll tell you what, never in my life have we so needed strong Christian men. We need them in our homes, in our families, in our marriages, in our communities, in our churches. We need strong Christian men who can lead.
Yeah. And you know, with that being said, too, I like the fact that there's young, old, there's not married, there's
Mhm,
thinking about marriage, there's divorced. You know, when I first got married, somebody said, you know, Mike, you have to understand this is going to be the hardest job you have.
mhm,
And you know, we think that when you get married, you just kind of coast. And, you know, you probably know this more than most, but I feel like most marriages are probably on coast mode
mhm,
90% of the time. Like I've told my wife, like, I want to have a strong, successful marriage where people are like, I want to be like Mike and Jessica.
mhm,
However, you know, it's, you know, and maybe on the outside it does look good a lot of times, but you know, I think that people don't understand. Like we all got problems, and you know,
mhm.
as men, you know, in that group, seeing all sorts of it, and it makes you realize that even if you're married for 40 years, there's still going to be issues come up. It's never going to be perfect, and you always have to be proactive. I feel like in a marriage instead of just kind of being reactive.
Mhm. Yeah, you cannot coast in a marriage, guys. Your marriage is a living thing, you know, it's a living entity. And just like you can't plant a flower and never tend it, never water it, never fertilize it, don't give it any sun, it's not going to grow. And your marriage is the same way. We have to tend it, we have to nurture it. And in our group, we talk about the seasons of marriage. And we've got a free live event coming up February 1st in our group. It's called the Transform Your Marriage Masterclass. So if you want to know any more about any of this, hop over to our group, join us for that free live event.
We'll post some links on our page to it too.
Yeah, all the details are there. It's fun. We have a great time. We love Masterclass Week. We've got a mascot for Masterclass Week. And we do some cool and fun things together. But one of the things that we do is we talk about the seasons of marriage. And so the first season is the season of happiness. And that's when you meet and you fall in love and you get married and you're in that honeymoon phase and everything's all wonderful and good and everybody's perfect. And your marital satisfaction rate, if you were to ask both partners, they would say they would rate the marriage between 100%, it's perfect, down to 80%. So you're an A or a B. And that's where we want marriages to be. The next season is the season of discontent. And that is when people would rate their marriage from 79% down to 50%. So C plus to F, okay? And we slide from the season of happiness down into the season of discontent, usually from life events. It's not like somebody, you know, fell out of love or anything like that. It's because a new baby comes in the house and we get tired, or there's job stresses, or we have to move, or COVID hits. So it's a life event usually that pushes us down into that season of discontent. And couples could be stuck there for years, sometimes decades, going around and around and around. We get along, we don't. We get along, we don't. We get along, we don't. We call that the hamster wheel, okay? And then the next season that we drop down to, if we don't address the problems there, you drop down into the season of fear and disconnect. And that's 50% down to zero. Zero is the judge just signed off on your divorce decree. And it's a fear because we're afraid we're going to lose our family, or, you know, you're going to be weekend dad for the kiddos every other holiday. You're disconnected. You may be physically separated in the house. You may be living apart, somebody staying with friends or getting an apartment, so you're disconnected. And that goes all the way down to zero when you're legally divorced. And then season 4 is the season of transitions. And that's getting your life back and finding a new normal after divorce. And so many guys, and if I could leave the world with one thing, guys, this is the one thing I'm going to leave it with. You have got to work on your marriage in the season of discontent. Okay, I work with guys all the time that are down in fear and disconnect, and they want to hit you upside the head with a 2x4 If you are in the season of discontent and you're not working on your marriage to get back up to happiness, okay? They want you to learn from their pain. They want you to learn from their anguish, their heartache, and they don't want you to go through what they've been through.
Now, question for you.
Uh-huh.
In that stage of fear and disconnect, I feel like I was there. So whenever I first had gotten married, this was before I got married, I had a gentleman tell me one time, and this guy was married with 4 kids and was cheating on his wife every weekend. He said, I'm like, you have to understand, when you get married, you have to live 2 separate lives. You have to live a life with your family and being a good person, but then you also have to have fun and take care of yourself and have a second life. And that was a story. I heard that when I was 19, 20 years old. And that was a story that stuck with me for a long time. And so whenever I was, got married, not that I was cheating on my wife or anything like that, but I was not a good guy. I was, viewing pornography. I was gambling on the side without her knowing, hiding money. I was just lying in general to her all the time. And I feel like I was in this season of fear and discontent, whereas she may have been in the season of I was in fear and disconnect, where she was in discontent because she had no idea what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Her marriage was going okay, but I'm over here almost strangling our marriage, trying to keep it good. And I was, that fear and discontent, I was scared for a long, long time. It was just, I thought that it was a matter of time as to when we would get divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I did, I had a guy that I'm really good friends with, been friends since we were like 10 years old. And when we would get together, we'd say, man, if our wives would just change, life would be so much better. We could do all this stuff. If she had more sex with us, we would be perfect. And then one time we looked at each other and said, how about we be the change that we want first? Mm-hmm. And so we came back a month later, and we're both into personal development. I've been into personal development for like 15 years. So I knew all this stuff, but I wasn't living it. I was conforming to the ways of the world. Pornography was fine. Gambling was normal. Drinking with your buddies on the weekends, that's good. The wife should be at home taking care of the kids. And so once we came back and I said, dude, my marriage, it's not perfect, but it's getting a lot better. And he said, I know. Isn't it crazy? Like once we started being the change that we wanted in them, we start seeing it. And so, yeah, once you get out of these stages, life can be good. Marriage can be good. Everything can be good if you take 100% responsibility.
Yeah. And we call that the ripple effect. And that's exactly what it is you cannot control anyone else. You cannot make her change. I'm going to say that again, guys. You cannot make her change. You can't make anyone else in the world change. You can only change you. And that's why we say leaders go first. Change yourself first. Work on your side of the fence. Now, we're not blaming guys. We're about empowering guys to be better versions of themselves. But when you do that, you change the dynamics in the relationship between you. And many, 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 many times the wife then falls in and starts doing her own work then and starts working on the marriage with you because you've paved the way for that to happen. And so, again, somebody has to go first, and that's you guys. God has called you to be the leaders, and you work on you and you be the best version of you that you can be. So one of the things I tell the guys all the time is who you are is God's gift to you. But what you make of yourself is your gift back to God.
Oh, that's good.
So be the best version of you that you can be. Don't let your pride get in the way. This is a kingdom thing, guys. This is a kingdom thing. And if you're not struggling in your marriage, if you're up in that season of happiness, oh my gosh, the energy, the emotion, the time that you have to be doing the work of our Lord, to be out doing his kingdom work, because you're not at home trying to fix a marriage day in and day out. So when you go in and you work on you, and just become the best person that you can become, it fixes the marriage, and it's a gift back to God, and it allows you to go and do greater things in his kingdom. And that's fantastic. We should all want to do that. We should all want to do that.
Now, question, do you think that ego plays a part in a lot of us guys? And if so, like, how do we let our egos go?
Am I allowed to cuss on here?
Say whatever you want. Say whatever the hell you want.
Hell yes. Ego does play a huge role in when I started into counseling. A typical scenario in my counseling office, husband and wife would come in. Wife would say she was done. She's ready to leave the marriage. And statistically, guys, 70% of all divorces are filed by the woman. Okay, I want you to get that number. And I want to tell you something else too. The biggest week of the year, traditionally, when divorces are filed, is this week.
No kidding.
No kidding. Because people struggle through the holidays. They want, the Currier and Ives, holiday greeting card, Christmas and Thanksgiving, and you're in a struggling marriage and that doesn't happen. We hit the New Year's and everybody reflects and they go, I'm not doing this again. I'm not doing this for another year. And the attorneys are all on break. They don't go back until their kiddos go back to school, and then they got to get caught up on all their messages and start scheduling appointments.
No kidding.
And so traditionally, last week and this week are the biggest weeks to file, and 70% will be initiated by the wife. If your wife has a college degree, that statistic jumps up into the 90s.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And there's a reason for that. And I'll tell you what, guys, if you come join us and come to the masterclass, I'm going to tell you exactly why that is. I'm going to diagram it out. I'm going to show you exactly why it is. And I'm going to show you how you can change that statistic in your marriage. Okay. Awesome. There's a way to change that, but you got to understand a pattern there. But yeah, for guys, they would come in, the wife's ready to leave. They do 3 or 4 sessions, and the wife would say, no, it's just not going to work for me. I'm done. And a lot of times serving divorce papers in my office, she'd get up and leave, and he'd stay my client, and he's just devastated. And I was like, I'm not understanding this here. To me, it sounded like she's been pretty clear for years, usually years, that if things don't change, she's going to leave. Why are you surprised? Number one answer, 100% of the time, I didn't believe she meant it. And so then the wives are sitting there going, what else am I supposed to say? If this doesn't change, I'm getting a divorce. I mean, I don't know how to be any clearer here. I'm not happy. I don't think I love you anymore. What else do I need to say here? And so then when I asked the guys, okay, why didn't you work on it back then in the season of discontent, guys? Why didn't you work on it then? The answer always usually does come down to pride. They don't want to ask for the help. They don't want to admit that they don't know how to do something. But you would go do that if you didn't know how to fix your car. If you didn't know how to do something in your business, you would go ask for help. My husband's remodeling our house. He has no problem getting on YouTube and finding a video about how to do something around our house, or going and asking somebody, how do I do this? So why won't you do it with the thing that is most valuable to you here on earth, and that's your marriage?
You make some great points, and it's, exactly everything you said. So my parents got divorced after like 24 years of marriage, and I know she was probably unhappy for a long time and saying the same thing, but they would never. And it's like, once they do go to counseling, it's already, I feel like probably you see the same thing. They're already mentally gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes complete sense.
And that's part of why I'm so passionate about what I do, is because my parents divorced when I was 14. So guys, I have been on every side of the fence on this subject. I've been around the track. I've got the battle scars to prove it. My husband does too. But my parents separated when I was 14, went through 2 years of a horrific divorce case. Finally, were divorced when I was 16. And so all that time leading up to the divorce, it certainly wasn't a happy house that I grew up in. And when when I was younger, upper elementary, early middle school, early junior high years, when I got home from school, my parents were both at work. You want to know what the first thing was that I did as a kid? Wasn't get a snack. Anybody want to guess?
I got no idea.
I went to my parents' closet and looked to see if their clothes were still there or if somebody had moved out.
Man,
It was the first thing I did.
that's awful. It's awful
And
when you're a kid to be
Mhm.
doing that.
And that was my life growing up. And you talk about, oh my gosh, the meal times where you sit and the tension in the air is so thick that you could cut it with a knife. And the arguments or the ignoring or mom crying or dad leaving for the evening, whatever it is. It wasn't any way to grow up.
Yeah.
And it was even worse after the divorce. My mom became suicidal. My dad checked out. I pretty much raised myself. My grades suffered because I was under so much stress and I was depressed and anxious. And I thought I was stupid because all of a sudden I couldn't do high school work. So I didn't go to college right after high school, which had always been the plan because I thought I was too stupid to do that. I finally went to get away from home, aced my way through college. But my first marriage was horrible. I didn't have any marriage skills. I didn't have any relationship skills. I married somebody who didn't have those. And so by the time I was 30, I was divorced and a single mom of a 3-year-old. And I swore, guys, I would never get married again. If you were the last man left on earth, I was not going to be interested. I was okay being a single mom. I was okay being alone. But God had other plans for me, and I got laid off from my job, moved from Ohio to Texas, and my sister lived here. That's why I chose Texas. And her boys were good friends with my husband's kids because they lived next door to each other. And the kids got together and decided if their dad married their aunt, they'd be cousins, and that would be really cool. So let's introduce Dad to Aunt Amy.
That's funny.
And that's how my husband and I met. I'm his third wife, so he's been around that as well. He's got the battle scars to prove it. And so when we got married, we said, you know what, we're not going through this again, ever again. We will not put our kids through this. We will not put ourselves through this. We are not going to bankrupt ourselves going through a divorce again. We will figure it out come hell or high water. We are figuring out how to do this. And one of the things that we said to each other was, we will invest the time, the effort, and the money to figure out how to be happily married. I want you to flip that sentence. What's the opposite of that sentence? I'd rather invest the time, effort, money, and energy in a divorce because I don't want to invest the time, effort, energy, money into getting help to have a happy marriage.
You get a choice, one or the other, so you might as well pick the latter, right?
One or the other, yeah. And so when we said it that way, it was like, oh my gosh, that's just ridiculous. So yes, of course, we'll work on our marriage. And we're like everybody else, guys. We came into a blended marriage. He'd had 2 divorces behind him. I had 1 divorce behind him. We put 4 kids together. There were various other parents in the picture. It wasn't easy. And this was a long time ago. My husband and I have been married for 28 years now. And that was a long time ago. There wasn't, believe it or not, guys, there wasn't internet back then. And, there wasn't a lot of help, and you didn't talk about marriage issues because that was taboo, that was private. And so it was hard. It was hard. But we worked our way through. And then along the way, I changed careers from corporate America, went to grad school, got into counseling, started working with all these families and couples and individuals, and started seeing patterns. And when I put those patterns together, it was like this huge light bulb moment. And I know exactly when it happened. My daughter was in the 9th grade. She's the youngest of our kids. She was on the debate team. And my husband and I had a major blowout argument over something that happened taking her to debate team. And I mean, it was one like I'm thinking one of us is going to be calling an attorney tomorrow.
Oh, man.
That bad of an argument. And then this light bulb went off and I realized this pattern. In our group, we call it the hamster wheel. Come to master class. I'm going to teach you all about the hamster wheel. And when I figured that out, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what we have to change. And this is where we have to change it. We haven't had a big fight since that day.
No kidding.
No kidding.
So again, when is the master class?
Master class is February 1st through the 5th. And I will be live. It's a free live event, guys, but you do have to be in the group and you do have to register because we have a workbook and some other cool things. So we got to have your name. But it's a free live event. I'm there live at noon every day. And then we do a replay at 6 p.m. And this is going to be live this time around because the guys asked. Will you be live so we can talk to you and get comments and feedback and everything else? And I said, sure, we're not going to do a replay. We're not going to do a watch party. I will be live again at 6 p.m.
That's awesome.
So come join us because, yeah, when I figured out that pattern, figured out that hamster wheel, which we had been stuck on too, we get on each other's nerves. We snark at each other, but we've never had a major fight since then because we are not on the hamster wheel anymore. And
I love how you're teasing this out too, getting us there because I want to know all these answers.
I've worked hard to find these answers. Like I said, I've got the battle scars. My husband's got the battle scars. But my daughter now is in her mid 30s, happily married, baby number 2 on the way. So we're talking over 15 years ago was the last time we had a really big argument.
That's awesome.
And I can show you exactly how to get off of that freaking hamster wheel that y'all are on.
That's awesome. Now I got a question, and this is a personal question because I feel like too with, one time my wife told me this, and I think this is maybe a story that she believes too, is that her dad told her, you can never trust anybody besides yourself. And I know there for a long, long time, she didn't trust me because I didn't give her any reason to. Now she says, like, Mike, I trust you. I trust you with everything. Like, you've done a complete 180. Like, our relationship's in the best place it's ever been. Like, I trust you. But I still feel like, even me personally, and I'm sure her too, we're like 90% in. Like, I have this fear that I could come home someday and she could just say, hey, I just don't think I want to be married anymore. And that's a fear that I think that I'm holding on to, and I'm not 100% in. Like, I'm just holding a little bit back. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to cure that? Do I need to show up to the master class to find the answer?
The master class or my intensive program, yeah. That's probably more we would get into in the intensive program. Yeah, but that's holding you back. And when it's holding you back, it's holding you from truly 100% emotionally connecting with your wife, which is what most women want.
Yeah.
They want that strong emotional connection, that sense of safety, security, especially in today's world, guys. I've told people before, it doesn't matter where Ben and I, that's my husband, it doesn't matter where we are in the world. He's home for me. All I have to do is be in his arms, and that's home.
Yeah.
And that's safety, and that's security. And that's what we all want. We want that feeling. And so if you're not quite giving her that full amount of you, there's a barrier there. We want to figure out what that barrier is and work to remove that so that you can be fully connected with her. Marriage, there's a lot of this, and I agree with this. Marriage is our best representation on earth of the Trinity.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have husband, wife, and God or the Holy Spirit in your marriage, that is as close as human beings on earth that we will ever get to being able to experience the Trinity.
I'm writing this down.
And if you've got 1 foot outside of that, that's going to be hard to experience that. So not only are you missing out in your marriage, but you're missing out in your relationship with God.
That's good. And I need to backtrack. Maybe it wasn't like 90%. It's probably more. Like I said, our marriage has grown so much, but I still have that fear that because of the past and her father saying that to her, because we believe these stories that maybe she'll come home someday and she's like, I'm not happy. But also, I don't think that would happen. Like, I mean, just like I said, I'm just not. I don't know. We've been talking a lot about this. Like, how do we both just say we're all in? Because then she's like, and she's one of those people too that she made this commitment. I give her tons of credit. Like, I married a good one because she said, even though this stuff happened, like, we'll work through it. And that's what we've said before here recently too, is that like, we went through a lot of stuff over these last 18 months that now we understand that no matter what happens, like, we feel like we can kind of get through anything. And that's just a good place to be with my spouse, knowing that no matter what happens, like, we can figure stuff out and we don't have to, like you said, and we're not the type that we never get any big arguments or something. We might bicker here and there, but it's just, just little spats. It doesn't last very long. And it's like, I'm very, very blessed to have a wife who's just 100% committed, Yeah.
And in the intensive program that I do, and guys, that's where I come alongside you and work one-on-one with you. In that program, you create a battle plan for your marriage. Because let me tell you, we go to battle every day for our marriage. Okay, there's all sorts of forces out there that don't want marriage happy, strong, solid, well-functioning marriages. So you go to battle every day for your marriage. And so one of the things that we do is we create a battle plan. It's an ongoing battle plan. It's not a once and done, okay? It's an ongoing battle plan to keep your marriage strong, to keep it up in that season of happiness. Because again, think of that ripple effect, okay? It's not just across, straight across, like from you to your wife. That absolutely does happen. But you have to think of the ripple effect as generational. It's a generational ripple effect. I know what I grew up with, and it wasn't good. Okay. And one of my promises to myself is my daughter and my children's growing up, their childhood would be different. And it was, because Ben and I were committed to having a good, solid, strong, happy, well-functioning marriage. And so what I see in my kids today, all of our kids are happily married. They're all in long-term marriages. We've got 8 grandkids. We got 8 grandkids. Number 9's coming in June. We get another little granddaughter. And so it's not just what I see with my kids, but now what I see with the way my grandkids are being raised, because their parents have these good, solid, strong, well-functioning marriages. And so now I see the just complete difference in how my grandkids are growing up from the way I grew up, okay? The generational curse stops with me.
I literally just wrote down that I was going to ask you about generational curses. You hit the nail on the head.
It stops with me. I'm not passing that on to my kids. I don't care what I have to do, okay? My little mama bear hormones will still come out. Those claws will come out. But I'm not passing that on. That is not going to be my legacy to my kids. My legacy to my kids is going to be, this is what a fantastic marriage looks like. Now I want you to take that ripple effect one step further. Do you know how many kids hung out at our house when our kids were still living here?
A lot.
Because we had a cool house.
Yeah.
We had a cool house, and we had many of their friends say, I learned what a good marriage was like being at your house. That's what I want.
That's awesome.
Kids would, and even a while back, one of my nieces said to me, I want a marriage like my daughter and her husband. She said, that's the kind of marriage I want. And I was like, then you wait for that and you build it and you nurture it and you grow it.
Those are like the ultimate compliments, aren't they?
They are. They really are. And so you want to think about what is this huge ripple effect, how it goes out into the world, not just you and your marriage, your kids, your grandkids, their friends of friends, the boyfriends they date, the girlfriends they date. You have this huge ripple effect. And if we can make that ripple effect big enough, guys, think about how that affects the entire world.
For sure. Oh, 100%. And Amy, I mean, you've got to come back on here because I've got a million other questions, but I know that you're probably got something to do. So I just want to reiterate, February 1st through 5th, you're hosting a masterclass. I'm going to post a link in here for this, but yeah, I mean, there's so much good stuff in here. Like I could talk to you for probably another 3 hours and not get all my questions answered. But I know the guys in here are going to get a lot out of this, and hopefully we can get a few of them signed up and especially joining the group over there because there's a lot of good stuff going on over there. And I so appreciate you taking the time to, just to talk with us and give us some good advice.
Yeah, I love being here, guys. This is what I'm passionate about, because you know what, guys, I know as a wife what it's like to be in a bad marriage, and I know as a wife what it's like to be in a fantastic marriage, and I want that for all the wives out there too.
For sure. One last question: if you have one tip to make us to be better husbands, what's that tip? Dangle that carrot out there for us to join this course.
So here, if I could only give you one tip,
just one,
it is be your wife's superhero. But that means you have to know what that is. You have to know what that is. And I can tell you what that is. I can show you exactly what that is to be her superhero.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. Amy, I appreciate it. So you can't join Structure U because it's a He-Man Woman's Hater Club. but I want to post everything. So if they want to join, they can reach out to you and get with you and go from there. So again, I appreciate Amy, and I really enjoyed this.
Thanks, guys. It was nice to be on here with you. Thanks for having me, Mike. And yeah, come join us. Come for Masterclass, guys. It's fun. We have a good time. I guarantee you will walk away with some new knowledge, information, tips, tools, techniques that you're going to be able to go home that day and use with your wife, but you're going to have fun learning it and sharing with us. So come on over. Come hang out with us. We'd love to have you. And guys, stay blessed, stay bold.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Amy.
All right. Take care.